8 years ago, I began shooting the film Alone with Wolves. It was a challenging and interesting task, filled with amusing adventures and uncertainty. My friend and I went to the Putorana Plateau, where wolves are not familiar with humans. Finding ourselves in the winter amidst the snowy Taiga, where there are no dwellings or people for hundreds of kilometers, we faced two challenges: to survive and find the wolf. To survive, we need a home, and to find the wolves, we had to comb through the Taiga. We quickly handled the first task, and to solve the second, it took us 3 years. By movie, I was already starting to share our adventures by posting 3 videos on the channel titled Befriending Wolves. But soon a movie came out, and I abandoned the video story I had started, thinking that the movie showed everything and told all about it. Over 2 years, the movie was watched by more than 8 million people. That's a good number for a nature film. One could find comfort and forget. But then the many comments and questions from thankful viewers would remain unanswered. This is simply a plain disrespect to the fans. Well, I invite you to set off on a journey to Lake Cayenne again, the very heart of the Putorana Plateau, and to plunge into the thick of events that remained off screen. Seeing this house in the movie left many viewers puzzled. How so? Heroes claim they ventured into the wilderness, but here, in the middle of the forest, stands a pretty little house with a stove and big windows. Near the house, there's a decent supply of firewood, and nearby, a non-freezing river with clean water and fish, even a toilet in the sauna. Not the Taiga, but a Taiga sanatorium. Why would one not live contentedly in such a house? Even in minus 40 degrees or during a days-long blizzard outside. Just sit, stoke the stove, and sip some tea. Wolves will come on their own. It turns out to be a deception. Yes, no, that's right. That's how we lived. And to have this house appear here, we had to put in quite a bit of effort and to taste tent life right at the start of the journey. The year 2012, the end of April. It's our first time flying to Lake Cayenne. There's no other way to get there. Our task for this year: find a suitable place, build a cottage, and study the situation on the ground. That is, to find out which animals live in the area and if there are any wolves here at all. Where to build the cabin? We didn't know the exact place in advance. We'll decide from the helicopter. Making a couple of circles over the node made it clear that there is no convenient place on its shore. Too much snow and a narrow coastal strip. The only spot not covered in snow with flat terrain was down the river, 500 meters from the lake. Scaring away a large herd of deer, we sit down on the river spit. Everything had to be anticipated, down to the smallest detail, and all necessities taken. The majority of the cargo is building materials. Luckily, the crew was easygoing, and we loaded the 8 to the brim. There's a strong frost outside. The most important thing during unloading: don't freeze the vegetables. That's why we packed them in warm boxes and covered them with blankets. Without onions, potatoes, and lemons, the expedition will be doomed. Quickly unloading the helicopter, the crew rushes to fly away. Who wants to be stuck in the cold? Gone. It's warm in the sun. You want to relax, but you can't delay. Shovels in hands and go. Just step into the sunlight. And it's curtains for the veggies and us. No fire will warm us up.
Valerie and I have been linked by many years of friendship that began in university. We have been many places and have a decent experience in surviving under such conditions. Quickly clearing the snow, laying the floor, setting up the tents, and insulating them. In expeditions like this, we use frame tents with a stove, and it's preferable for the entrance to be sealed with a large zipper. This way is more convenient during blizzards and with branches. In the tent, stoves are lit, vegetables are kept warm. We bring in food and other valuables. Can't leave them, especially food. It might get stolen. One time, we didn't clean up, too tired, and in the morning, while we were sleeping, a bear came and took the fish buried in snow on the helicopter pad. One more time. 3, 4. Yo, see, while we were moving our stuff, the third member of the expedition, Natalia, my future wife, was making us borscht. How lucky we are. See, that's the life in the taiga for you. It seems like there's nothing hard about it. But in reality, that day left us completely drained. Load stuff into the car, transport to the airport, load onto the helicopter, fly over, unload, carry over. And by evening, you won't fancy admiring magical sunsets anymore. I would have gone to bed earlier, but no. We still need to gather firewood for the night. The stove must burn all night. Otherwise, frost and the red nose will come. And we're not extreme tourists. We spent the entire first week settling in and exploring the surroundings. The result turned out to be comforting. The wolf tracks are present, and sometimes we even heard their calls. Deer walk in endless lines throughout the valley and lake. If only I knew back then. If I thought we wouldn't see such intense migration again, I'd stop building the cabin and would film deer day and night. I was sure that everything would repeat the next year. So, instead of filming, we went to the lake every evening after construction to admire the deer stream and the sunset. Doing only test shots. Usually, when starting such a project, the first year is spent learning the new place, its inhabitants, laws, rhythms, features, and possible unforeseen situations. To avoid surprises when the main shooting starts next year. We didn't wait for the snow to melt. See, they picked an even spot, cleared the area, marked it, and started building a 5 by 4 meter cabin. Initially, I thought of building a cabin out of aspen, but here, in the reserve, cutting trees is prohibited. We used dead wood for the frame, which was later covered with plywood sheets. Good luck. Construction is one thing, but a snack and keeping the provisions safe is sacred. See, by May, it's warm enough to have lunch outside in the sunshine. The smell brought the valley's owner out. The bear usually wakes up in early May. While the forest is still covered in snow, it wanders along the river looking for food. The bear is already aware of us. It moves cautiously, looking around. Smelled smoke. Time to skedaddle. At first we were a bit scared. Who knows what's on a bear's mind, especially a hungry one. Then we got used to his sudden walks. Day by day, our structure transformed and began to resemble a little house. Work could move faster. But again, in May, the weather on the plateau is unstable. Winter is reluctant to retreat, often bringing bad weather to the valley. Blizzards, snowfalls, and gusty winds shook our tents. But thanks to the stoves inside, it was warm. We had nothing left to do how to stop construction and sit in tents, listening to the winds dying down and the clinking of tin cans. Noise that supposedly scared away the bear. I don't know about the bear, but the deer weren't afraid of anything and often followed them close to our camp, even when we were working. The bad weather was short-lived, and that was enough to smudge all the snowmelt and the valley to put on its winter dress again. But the sun quickly dispelled the frost, and we continued construction. A stove is the heart of a little house. Usually, pot-belly stoves are installed in winter quarters, and to prevent it from overheating and to keep it warm, we surrounded it with bricks we brought from an old, destroyed outpost. Sometimes we would leave the construction site and go for a walk in the valley for a whole day below the little house. The river freezes over and turns into a vast ice rink. There's the four main places where lakes unload and groundwater emerges.
Cooler. Water spreads thinly over vast areas and freezes.
During winter, a layered pipe forms up to 3 or more meters thick. In severe frosts, supercooled water resembles melted wax. Walking on the ice is very dangerous, especially in early spring, when it starts to actively melt. You can fall into the void. And in March, when the ice is bound by strong frosts and there is no precipitation. The surface is being formed exclusively as a mirror. It's time to put on skates. Instead of skates, we use felt boots with rubber soles. I have not seen better footwear for the frosty taiga yet. 3 weeks later, our construction began to resemble a little house. We have already started the interior work and insulation. Having temporarily sealed the window openings with architectural glass, we moved into the cottage for the meal, testing the delights of future comfort. By the end of May, we finished the main construction work and had more time for excursions. Spring could be felt everywhere. The harsh frosts and dark nights were no more, allowing us to venture far with our skis, kettle, and snacks. While there was still snow in the forest, we needed to find out where wolves lived. Following the tracks, or rather their abundance, we found the place where the wolves had their den. We found 4, too good and too unsuitable for living, but they were empty. We never found the dwelling past that 5 meters. But it was close by, with the old ones, in an inconspicuous place. During the outings, we didn't encounter any wolves, but we heard their howling. However, we saw plenty of deer. Migration intensity did not decrease. The males had already started moving, whose heads were crowned with young antlers. Winter has turned into the past. The snow in the valley has melted, and the forest was filled with the voices of birds. The little house is ready. Only the interior finishing and the construction of a vestibule remain. And then we can celebrate the housewarming. Although Valera had already moved into the cabin, we turned his tent into a sauna. July arrived. The valley came fully to life and was filled with the colors of summer. The helicopter delivered the missing construction materials. Now we can complete the construction fully and focus on exploring the valley and filming.
Natasha flew away in the same helicopter, and we were left alone until the end of November. Within a week, we completed the construction of a porch and a toilet. We laid a taiga floor out of thin logs in front of the entrance, and finally moved into the cabin. Moving, new settlement. So that's how the Ayana cabin came to be, where I stayed for many years.